Hi guys, it's been a while since I made any videos, and the reason is partly because we've moved. We moved from Florida, St. Petersburg, Florida, up to Seneca, South Carolina, and part of the reason was just the terrible heat in Florida, but a big piece of the reason was it is delightful up here. It's just delightful. And motorcycle riding is beyond belief. It's right out the door. It's just lovely. Through woods, curves, mountains, everything. And we go up to Blowing Rock in the summer when it gets hot. At least we did in Florida. That was a 12-hour drive. And from here it's only 4 hours. So we can go up to our camper up there anytime we want, come back anytime we want, not facing, a serious drive. So we're happy. And this is my shop. So this house that we found, it's just unbelievable, has a 3-car garage at the other end of the house. In the basement area, it was set up with a 2 double-car garage door, but it basically was unfinished. So one of the first things I did was I brought in a crew and we finished the garage out as a shop. So this is now my shop. I can actually stand up in my shop. Whereas in Florida, the roof was so low that you had to bend over to do anything, basically. So let me give you a little tour, and then I'm going to talk about the work that I'm doing on the 71, and hopefully get her fired up again. So as you walk in this door from the outside, I have a bench set up here with drill press and bandsaw and router and that kind of stuff. Then I put a little island in here for tools and stuff. And then there's a garage door that is coming here, an 8x8 garage door. And that is so that we can get the lawnmower and motorcycles in and out. And this area over here is for Melinda and her gardening stuff. And I have a table saw set up and lots of storage in the back. And now you can see why. Oh yeah, I'm just in heaven. And another workbench over here where I'll be doing wheel lacing and other various metal kinds of things, assemblies and that kind of stuff. And you can see from back here the 71 Sportster, and the rest of the garage. Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about my 1971 Sportster that I got a couple of years ago. So when I was in Florida, the Sportster stopped running. And it stopped running because the carburetor, the original carburetor from 71, was flooding the motor out. And I had adjusted it, I had rebuilt it several times, and the float bowl valve system just never worked right. So I got, when I got everything else done here, and I moved the Sportster in the garage and had some time, because a lot of my time has been working on the house itself and getting it fixed up. I got a cheap Chinese knockoff of a constant velocity, a CD carburetor. There's a couple of them that have been made for Harleys by Japanese firms that are really good. They're reliable. They adjust automatically for altitude changes, and they're delightful. So I decided to try to adapt one to the Sportster, and that's the reason why I got a cheap one instead of an expensive one. If it fails, I'm only out like 65 bucks instead of 150, 200, 300 bucks for the real thing. So this carburetor needed an adapter. So in the back, the mounting point is just a round pipe that sticks out, I would say. It's not a pipe, it's part of the carburetor, but it sticks out the back. And the Sportster needs a flange that bolts up to the manifold. They're available online. I got one that is aluminum, and my good friend Michael Reed told me how to put it together, because it was like a press fit, and I didn't think a press, actually pressing it in, would be airtight and would result in a firm enough bonding of the two pieces to support the carburetor and, you know, just lock it together. So we put the carburetor in the freezer, and that got it really cold and kind of shrunk the metal. And then he noticed that the mounting piece was anodized, so we couldn't really heat it directly. So we threw that in a pot of boiling water for a while. So carburetor was frozen, nice and cold, shrunk, and the collar that goes over the back of it was boiling hot. I put it on pulled the carburetor out, put it on a piece of wood, pulled the ring out, put it on top of that, put another piece of wood on, and then just mashed it together. Fortunately, it went on straight, and the bolts for the mounting to the manifold lined up perfectly. So it was perfectly vertical. Everything there worked fine. Now, the interesting part comes when you try to hook up the throttle to the carburetor, because here, this is on the forward side of the motorcycle. The original carburetor, all this throttle body is on the rear part of the motorcycle. That's not too much of a problem. But this thing is set up for dual wires. Right? So modern motorcycles have dual wires coming out of the throttle body, coming down, around, and then hooking into two places, one for a push and one for a pull on the throttle body. I didn't want those extra wires. This thing is designed for an internal cable that runs through the handlebar and comes out down here. So I had to take that original mounting structure and replace it. And that's been the hardest piece of work. So let me show you a little bit about that. So what you see here is a flattened piece of steel that was the original mounting structure for the cables coming from the throttle down to the throttle body on the carburetor. I needed a template to be able to create something similar to it to begin with. So I took it to the vise and I pounded it into flatness. So it didn't break. It flattened out pretty nicely. And I used this to do my original first pass cutting for this. So this here is the new piece. So if you look at this maybe this way, you can see some of the origins. But I needed a place for the throttle cable to come in and go down to one side of the throttle body. So I had to add this loop here, this tab, in order to support where that piece came in. So that's all new. That's something that I had to create. And then I had to replace this tab, became this tab down here, and this is the stop for the idle speed. So that's where that came from. Actually, let's see, what is this? Yeah, actually it's like this. Okay, so this notch is this notch. This hole is this hole, a mounting point. This hole, which does nothing, it turns out, is that one. This tab is this tab for the idle speed adjustment, and then this goes over the top. So this gets this gets bent out this way. This gets bent out this way. This gets bent to go up and over the top of the carburetor and bolt down to the top. So you have a bolting area here, you have a bolting area here. You had to drill and tap this. Well, I had to drill and tap this. So this is one of the biggest pieces of work to get this precisely right, so that it supports the throttle cable, the idle speed adjustment, and bolts up correctly here and here. So that was what you have to do to put this kind of carburetor, the CD carburetor, onto a Sportster of 1971 age. The next thing I want to show you is this brass petcock. And the reason for me doing this is that the standard petcock, first of all, exits forward instead of backwards, and this carburetor takes its feed on the back side. So in order to accommodate that, I needed a petcock that was smaller, so it would fit next to this bigger carburetor, and also have the controls for turning it on and off easy to get to and clear the valve covers. So I got this on eBay from a place called Billet Proof Designs, and it works perfectly. I'm very happy with it. Now, the last thing I need to do here before working on the throttle cable itself is to mount this back up. Right in here's where it goes. And I've taken, again, on eBay, taking a brake lever adjuster, and I'm going to use that since I have to terminate the end of the cable. See, and that just fits perfectly with the gas tank. Wow, that's perfect. So this piece here, let's see if I can get some light on it, is really from a brake on a bicycle. And that way I can drop this throttle cable in like this, right down on that throttle. And that'll be perfect. So I have to terminate the end because this goes into a socket here, like a regular end of a brake cable. You know, I tried mashing up something, but on eBay I found a way to create a real end for using bronze, silver, whatever wire, and I'll put that in a link below that'll show you what that that YouTube address is, because that shows how to make these ends properly. And I'll cut this ragged part out, and I have to cut the cable to fit. But because both ends are now going to be ended precisely with a ball of brazing wire, from brazing wire, then I needed some adjustment here. So I tapped my adjuster and this plate and screwed this in. So now I have some adjustment for where that wire's going to, how tight that wire's going to be. So that's the next part of this project. I'm going to screw this back on, and then I'll fire it up for you. And the throttle cable is all that's left. Oh, and there's one other thing I forgot to show you, and that is you have to buy the cable, the choke cable, separately from the carburetor, and that's easy because it's just an adjacent link. But Lowbrow Customs makes a plate that goes on top of the carburetor, and that allows you to move the whole choke assembly over to the carburetor. So now, choke on, choke off, all nice and neat. Gas, throttle, choke, everything in one place rather than going from side to side. And I really like that. Now hopefully the air cleaner will clear all this stuff. And that's coming Wednesday. So that'll be another experiment. I am so happy that this fuel valve clears the bracket that I made for holding the cable. It just all came together. Let's fire it up. See what happens. Okay, after all that, let's start it up. Need the gas on. Perfect. Works perfectly. Can't believe it. Throttle up. Key on. And beautiful. Beautiful. Oh my goodness. That was quite a bit of work. This is like the third week since I started the project, but most of that has been waiting. First of all, understanding what pieces I needed, what I needed to build, and waiting for parts to arrive. Yeah, so you get a few parts, you make a little more progress. And sometimes you don't because the new parts don't fit right or just not the right part, and on it goes until it all comes together. Yes, it's done for now.